You guys, ukaribishe mtu wetu hapo bwana Ken. Do the honors.
Sawa. Let me.
He's here on the speaker panel, you guys.
Oh, he's already speaking, eh? Bwana Kodhek, karibu bana. Enter the arena.
Thank you. Naona mmeset mood huko juu.
Bana. Unajua nimejaribu kuongea na wewe for a while, lakini finally mtandao imekubali conversation happen.
Finally.
I've been a big fan bana. Si tumeongea kidogo TikTok. So ningetaka tu ujiintroduce, utuambie wewe ni nani, why you do what you do on TikTok, why that is a passion of yours.
The name is Kodhek Karanja, like iko hapo kwa label. And I am a sociology student. I started sociology immediately after we lost the election because I really wanted to understand how people would vote the same way their fathers did, and their fathers would vote the same way their grandfathers did. And that's how slowly by slowly I started gaining the knowledge mdogo too. And this knowledge somehow, it's not even difficult. It's on YouTube, but they simply can't teach it in schools because they would like us to remain like this dumb.
You guys, you're saying, by the way, karibu sana, mimi naitwa Emmanuel, naitwa Manu. So you're saying people vote the way their fathers did?
Yeah, we have a voting culture. Yeah, voting culture, it dictates how you see things. It dictates how you actually, how you hear things. It filters everything. And you might be so educated, you might be so informed, but if
I think we have temporarily lost access to our guest.
Just give him a moment, Arudi, you guys. I think ni the matrix yenye haitaki aongee.
Bana, jamaa na preach kweli sana hapa bana, hataki.
You guys, the matrix is anti this guest
country. So yes, the voting culture.
Okay, we lost you for a moment, bro.
Matters. It matters how you see and perceive the politics matters.
We lost you for a moment there, yeah? We after you did your intro, it just potted, man. I think the hours.
What about now?
Yeah, now you're back. You guys. So if you don't mind, you guys, let me tell you a personal story. Maybe it'll give us context, huh? I was when Kibaki was running for his second term, I'd planned to vote for him, huh? So, because I used to think, this guy has done a very good job. This guy, things look like they're working out. So I'm voting for Bucks. So Maze, fast forward, where I was hanging out with my family. And I just said that I'm voting for Bucks Apple, innocently. Eh? You guys started looking at me. Me, I'm a lunje. I'm a bukusu man. Eh? So you guys started looking at me badly up in the crib. They're like, what is wrong with this guy? You guys, why are you voting? Why are you voting for Bucks? So Paka said, doubting myself. I'm like, hey, Kwani, what the heck did this guy do, man? Huh? So the sad part of this story is, because of that social influence, I actually changed my vote and voted for Rao. You guys, that is sad, you guys. So do you think that is the story of many Kenyan voters? Like, just because of their family, they'll just vote because of, the surrounding influence.
Yes, a lot of it, bro. Not just a few people. Like, I had the same situation 2013 with Uhuru, going to my parents, and I'm like, no, I'm going for Rao because I don't believe in this narrative of the young, because just because someone is young, he is mistaken to be competent. I feel like there is some other things we can look at, not just the age. And if they are looking at me like, we hope wewe uko zako umetoka tao kwa mandom, so wewe tulia, kesho tunakupigia nani, tunakupigia kamwana. And it influenced me so much, and it just did. And unapata umepiga Uhuru ama unapata yani umeslice kura yako, sijui MP umepea nani, huyo mwingine umepea nani, and it's so confusing, you know. Then sasa hapa 2022 ndo nianza kujiuliza maswali. There's definitely a voting culture, there's definitely something that is pushing us, and that thing ndo tunaitanga partisanship, you know, that emotional attachment that your parent, the people in your place, there's an emotional attachment you have to a specific political ideology, and it is strong, it is very strong, because it grows by generation. It grows by generation. So by the time you are coming to tell your parent that no, I view something different, they are looking at you like this guy he has been dominated by demons in his head. Yet it's just a political ideology, it's just a different perspective, you know? So those are the things I started digging immediately after we lost the election, and I found that if people actually think the problem is what we are being told by the mainstream media, they are going to be in shock, huge shock.
So I think someone our age has an understanding of the network of the ownership of these mainstream media stations. We also have an understanding that even when we are even after that election cycle, even after those 4 years, the alternatives we are given to choose from, it's like we're not really exercising our right to choose.
Sasa kuna mtu anaongea ama ni mimi nimepotea?
Hello, unanisikia?
Can you hear us, Kodhek? Unatusikia?
Yes, I can. Mimi niko sawa.
So Ken, endelea basi.
We kind of have illusion of choice, because itafika 4 years from now tutaambiwa it's either this guy or this guy, but both parties were not our choice. We were given these choices on a platter and asked to choose, so it's kind of an illusion. So given that tunajua hii democracy yetu ni makeshift, it's not as legit as it as we idealize it in our head, what insights have you gathered from your few years in studying sociology? You said it's sociology you are studying, see? What insights do you have that can propel us in the right direction going forward as a nation? Sijui nimesikika ama
Kodhek, umesikia swali huyo boy?
I'm wondering ni mimi ama fomu gani? Nipande miti ama tufanye aje?
I think your network yako inaruka ikishuka mazi. Do you want to drop off and add yourself again? Yeah, just drop off then add yourself again, and then we see if it'll be clearer, you guys. So by the way, after towards the end of this space, I'll open it up for everyone else to ask their questions. So, but meanwhile, if you have a burning issue, you can just write it up you can tweet it up or chini. And by the way, you can also retweet this space so that we can spread the word, you guys, manze. Ken Beda mazee, hujasikika na venye hiyo swali yako ilikuwa swali moja umeitoa mbali sana ama?
Bana, nimeivuta kuvuta. Hata nijaribu tupate the beginning.
You guys, check what are the intricacies of the situation which has actually perpetuated the thoughts that you have in sociology. Check mimi sijakusikia. Iza you guys, hapo ulikuwa umefanya kazi yako yote. Wait, sasa unatusikia poa, Kodhek?
Mimi niko sawa, I can hear you.
Haya, sasa Ken, let's do it again, bro.
Kodhek, nilikuwa nauliza, let me simplify the question now. Given that we don't choose the options that are given to us during elections, we kind of get a short list at the end of the president's cycle, and we're told choose this one or this one. Meanwhile, there are many good candidates that are not even on that list. Na pia tunajua hizi mainstream media, these news channels, most of them are owned by the politicians we're talking about right now. So given the bleak situation we're in, where it's whatever choices we exercise, they're seemingly illusions. What is your hope for the future of our democracy?
Well, the first thing we have to do is trash democracy, because we are not a society that can actually drive through democracy. If we were a society that can drive through democracy, by now we will not be telling our daughters to go and work in Saudi Arabia as a form of employment. And we all know, we all know our kind of skin is not so it's not so welcoming in those outside countries. But you hear someone confidently saying that 60 years of independence, of 60 years of democracy. Someone is so confident saying that, hey, we are going to send you to Germany, we are going to send you to UK, we are going to send you to Saudi Arabia. It's simply because the democracy is not working. What we need to do is redefine our democracy. Yes, we need to redefine our democracy. Currently, what we have now is an influence system or a populist system whereby the people who get to the top to be viewed as leaders are influencers and populists. And so if you are not a loudmouth, you are not likely to get to the top. You're not likely to even be seen in the vicinity of leadership because you're not a big mouth, you know. You you're not a big mouth. You cannot probably go and manipulate the people, tell them to tatenga, or nani nampira, nani nampira. It's not possible for you to do that. So what we have to do, and this one I have said it somewhere else, and they were like, "Hey, that's too much. We can't," And I was like, "If you want to change, then that's it. We have to amend Article 136. Article 136 directly goes to the question of how do you elect the president, and I personally am against national presidential election, because we are a multi-ethnic society, and a multi-ethnic society whose foundation was bloodshed, betrayal, and assassinations. In the 60s, there's just so many people who died, and that was the beginning of our self-rule. So definitely, if the foundation is wrong, bad, poor, or it's fragile in any manner, then that society cannot engage in national election, a national competition for power, because the people are going to retreat into their collective conscious thoughts, and that collective conscious thought is going to be the tribe. Okay, so you will be complaining of tribalism. You guys, we have tribalism problems. We have no, we don't have tribalism problems. What you have is that the system is forcing you to compete beyond the boundaries you can understand, beyond the boundaries that you can view. You can't tell a Kenyan right now to compete with someone in Mozambique. You can't. If you told them to compete with someone in Mozambique and there was a Kenyan candidate who was half man, half goat, they would still vote for the Kenyan who is half man, half goat, and leave another one who is more competent from their Mozambique, because this is the only they can only understand this guy. So they would be even PhD guys, but they will still vote for the Kenyan, because they vote for someone who they are familiar with. So if you want to solve this problem first, if you want the people to start looking at competence and merit, first of all, reduce competition to where they are familiar, and that is the counties. People can actually understand each other in the counties. People can actually conceptualize things that are happening in the counties. These are boundaries they can understand, bro. I don't think 80% of Kenyans have left their counties. So once you tell them to engage in a national competition, you're forcing them now to actually excuse their leaders in the counties to behave badly, because they're engaging in another bigger competition for them, which is bad. So that's it. If you want our system to focus on merit and competence, first of all, reduce competition to the places they can understand, the places they are familiar with. That's my thing.
Hey, very
Hello.
insightful, man. Bwana Titus, karibu bana.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kodhek Karanja, is that the name, if I'm not wrong?
That's the name.
Good morning, Bwana.
I'm good.
Yes, I really went through some of your stuff, and you have some very interesting concepts. And one of the thing for example, what you just said right now, just like to follow up with this question. So your idea is that, you see, you have a problem with the concept of competition, but you also have to understand that the instinctive nature of human beings is that the reason why even we are surviving right now is because the nature in our environment is made for us to compete. You are against competition. Do you think you are asking for you are asking us to rewire how we were made? Because the idea of, just think about the idea of what do we call this Darwinian theory of natural selection? It's basically based on competition. You seem to be suggesting that we remove a concept that we know is naturally occurring to us, which is the idea that we will compete for resources, we will compete for all these opportunities. Like the nature in which human beings, or the way life is structured, and I'm not talking about the way democracy, the way our government is. The idea of competition, even within government, I think comes from the nature that we have evolved through the Darwinian theory.
But
What
Titus,
would be
let me.
what would be your take in that regard?
Okay.
I didn't eliminate competition. Competition actually gives us competence if competition is being given the pressure it deserves, or the pressure that is equal. Okay? Now, what I said here, and I hope this one is going to be clear, what I said here is that competition needs to be reduced in the social occasions that people can actually conceptualize, or people can start actually looking at the leader's competence. What we have is in the presidential election is the people cannot resonate. Nimepotea tena ama niko sawa?
Uko sawa.
Uko sawa, uko sawa.
The people cannot comprehend anything beyond their social occasions. So once you tell them to engage in a competition, they are not going to be looking at what that person is saying. They are going to be looking at his influence. How popular is he? And that is how we have leaders today. They are just populists and influencers. I keep on telling people, Rao is an influencer, whether you like it or not. He's the only man who can make a holiday out of just saying with his own mouth. He's an influencer, and you keep on shouting, "Oh, he's a problem." No, he is not. The system is actually he's actually serving the system as it is to influence people. Right? So I'm not eliminating competition, I'm just reducing it into the gauges where the mindset can understand and start viewing this leader, gauging him with X, gauging him with Y. That way they can easily make a competent decision. But national competition, no, you just support something because they just feel like empathy will get in the way of that decision.
So what are your ideas on the national level in terms of electing a guy?
This one is going to be very weird, because we have been programmed to think that the only way we can be civilized is by doing things like the West. So if this one, what I'm going to say here, we sound so crude, just you need to decolonize. Now, after we engage in a county election, where we will be selecting the leader we would like to represent us in the national level, unlike what we do now is electing a national leader directly. We could have a second option of contributing that leader. So every county should be contributing the best they have. We can call them economic experts. Yeah, we can call them economic experts. We don't have to call them something else in the county level. We can call them economic experts. And assuming we have 47 economic experts. Now, here is where it gets challenging, because people are like, no, now out of 47, can we have 47 presidents? Is it possible to have 47 presidents? And I'm like, no, no, we contributed the leaders. So now all we have to do is assign them the roles. Now, how do we assign them the two basic major roles? And I told them, we're going to use marbles. Marbles have been used for centuries to solve problems in African societies, or societies that are competing and they cannot, you cannot choose one from the other. Okay? The marbles would give us that. And everywhere I say that, they're like, no, bro, that is gambling. And I'm like, we have the competent here at hand. There are 47. All we have to do is select 2. Mabos will do that for us. The next option would be picking a sequence out of 47. After you pick a sequence out of 47, then we have the sequence, and when we engage in an election, then one county will be known to give us a president, and everybody else will be giving us the other leaders. That's it. That's it.
Mr. Kodhek,
Yes.
niko na maswali mazito sana, especially with that. I think you seem to have misunderstood the idea of leadership, kwamba, because this is my understanding of power and how leadership works in an. Behind every respectable power structure in any environment, there is an underlying threat of violence that guarantees its existence. It's not about people deciding. You see, you are assuming people are so nice, they will want. Power is not given to anybody, it's taken by those who have the ability to do it. Now, if you understand that is how power works, it becomes very difficult to tell people to wait in a sequence when I can get it today because I have the power. I want you to account for that human nature. How do you regulate that, and how do you tell somebody? Because you have to realize that power is not a voluntary thing that we give. Sometimes we think we have given out power voluntarily, but the real truth of power is, what can you do if you disagree with that power? There is an underlying threat of violence to clamp back at you should you try and topple power. So think about it from the perspective kwamba power is not something that people amicably sit down to agree on.
But Titus,
Yes.
we just discussed last week the Swiss government, where the power structure is shared among 7 individuals over a period of time. Doesn't that give us a way to navigate the handing over of power in the amicable nature you just described?
What you've suggested there is you have to understand the specific circumstances that make it comfortable for Sweden to do that. Unanielewa?
Uh-huh.
The moment you understand the specific circumstances, you see, Sweden is the exception to the rule. I don't want us to argue using the exception. Like, I want you to think about it from, like, now I'm really trying to be pragmatic and do it in a way that works, not in a way that just becomes theoretically possible but practically impossible to execute.
You think us guys have no ability
So,
to...
Kodhek unasemaje?
Yeah, because there is a power dynamic up with it that we are trying to ignore. That power is what we agree. Even right now, the fact that we have agreed for the people in power is because there is actually an underlying threat of violence. It's not entirely voluntary. In fact, what happens is, I agree with what Ken Beda was suggesting, that, or what we have is an illusion of choice, and that illusion of choice is because the truth of the matter is, for you to dominate a society, you actually have to conquer. So how do you conquer? What these people have successfully managed to do is, the idea is, because power is not something that you negotiate over, or when you negotiate over it, the only reason why your chips will be accepted in the negotiation table is because of the underlying the threat of violence that you possess.
Okay. So nakusikia Mzuri, I see your perspective, and on the other hand, we are also human beings who like social order. We love order. When it gets to a time and we feel we are not competitive enough, we cannot actually feed ourselves as we speak. We are being fed by neighbors. So when it gets to such a time, now everyone start having a different perspective of, could we have a different way of organizing ourselves? Now, when that moment comes, me as Kodhek Karanja, I will be there with my loud mouth saying, yes, let us have a different perspective of how we share power. We don't have to go to SmackDown for one person to prove he's the most competent, because literally our process of getting power is not competence. It's a matter of how can you speak. Can you manage to speak to these people against that guy? Because that's it. I would like someone to give me a campaign video that actually talks about competence. I would like to see, because you will know someone's competence by asking them questions, or taking something or a docket they had, and then you kind of gauge them. But we don't have that time during the campaigns. We don't have that time. By that time, we are so busy. We are actually having these emotions being ignited about us being warriors against the other guys. So the system we have now, bro, is just us trying to colonize the other guys. And you think that is okay, that is very much okay, but it's not we are not able to organize ourselves in a way that we are adding value to our resources. So this competition you're talking about, the presidency, and where someone has to prove himself, it has this emotional attachment to it. It is so strong that it lasts for almost forever. So right now people are busy protecting their win because they won 2022 election August. People are busy protecting that win. So if someone dares come and ask a question to that leader, then you people will go out bad. They are like, no, hata sisi tutatetea mtu wetu. That's it. So in between that society, you don't have order. What you have is people colonizing the other people. The idea that this majority should be ruling over the minority, that actually is primitive. And another thing I want to remind you is that we come from societies whereby leaders used to come from specific homes. Yes, they used to come from, we have got so many here, for communities where leaders used to come from specific homes. Just because someone has been born in a specific place, they were considered to be competent. So right now, the white man came and gave us his demonic culture of majority should be ruling over the minority, which can work for him in a culture whereby he has got almost 60 to 70%, they share the same culture. Okay, so, but for us here, it's very primitive. Actually, that one is only engaging. It's actually igniting much more. It's actually igniting hard mentality. So yes, what you are saying is true, but it's not working for us. And we are approved. We have come from systems where we had hereditary types of leadership. Now we have this white man democracy kind of politics. It is possible for us now, because we are in a different generation, to come and bring in a different perspective. We had this talk yesterday on TikTok. I had a few people supporting it, saying we just need to amend it a bit, and then that could work, because the presidency takes all our energy. I want you to understand what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone ignoring an MCA who paid school fees to children in that village, and because he did not choose that political party to run with, they ignore him and go to the other guy. It takes everything. People will ignore the competent just to focus on the political party where the presidential election is going to happen. It takes everything. And when that time comes, like the Rwanda time where they had someone who came in with a different perspective of how things are going to run. When that time comes, I will be there with my loud mouth saying we need to eliminate national presidential election.
So what are your views on, I don't know if I'm being heard over here. Yes. What are your views on a benevolent dictator? Like, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on dictatorship? Hata Nubian King ameuliza hiyo swali. Like just a dictator who, you see, sort of the Rwanda style. Like, this guy is a strong man and he's taking the country in a particular direction and it looks like it's working. So if that is working, why do you need 40 other guys? We just stick with that one guy for a generation. What do you think?
I don't mind. I don't have a problem. The only problem is that it's a gamble on what he chooses to be. What he chooses to be becomes. So I wouldn't mind. For example, right now I didn't vote for Ruto, but I like Ruto's Russo's ability to manipulate the people, I like it. So if we really give him maybe the ability to, slightly dictate, I would like to see what we can become. But now, here's a problem. We have had a dictator before. Moi was one. People might not view him as a dictator, but he was there, and it didn't work. So I would like to support dictatorship. It has been proposed almost kila mahali and danga. They are like, dictatorship is the only solution. I'm like, no, we do need the legislature to question the executive. What we just need to guarantee is an independent legislature, and that is by only eliminating presidential election and having a different system of electing the president. So I support dictatorship, only that if we do not know how to gauge who we are going to take there, because we did have dictatorship. We had Moi. We had Moi, only that it was not outright open. We had Moi, and I don't know whether Trash, but that guy was close to it, because I don't get how you can sink almost everything, just everything. That's it for me. Dictatorship not bad, but we had it and it didn't work.
Karanja,
Yes.
I want to challenge your thoughts on dictatorship, Kwanza. I still have an issue with, because what you never addressed is the nature that power works with violence. And that, so tell me what you are going to tell this, for example, in Kenya, 42 tribes, or is it 47 counties, whatever. Tell me what you are going to tell them, and then county number one knows, okay, we have to wait for this 47 round of elections. Yet I know if we went and fought today, we will have this power. You see, there is that thing that you are refusing to address, kwamba power, what guarantees power is the underlying threat of violence. So yes, I get it. We can decide, okay, we don't want this. But you see, you are assuming also that human beings are controlled by logic, which
just before Kodhek jumps in, you don't think if things are working, guys would be patient? Like the infrastructure is looking good. I can do my business safely. I can. My kids have a future. I go to hospital and I don't have to, do a harambe to pay. You don't think that if things are working, even if I have to wait for county number 46 to get the power, but huyu wa 45 anaweza yake yote. So don't you think if it's working, guys would be patient?
I feel like that's assuming a very different characteristics of how power works. I get what your point is, or what the question is, and what I really wanted Kodhek to address is the idea that this thing is guaranteed by violence, and whoever monopolizes that violence, in as much as whatever happens, whoever monopolizes that violence will always try to go on top of with the pyramid. Now I know that there is the idea kwamba things are working and you can be patient behind it, but that is very against instinct and nature, or the nature that we know. I know people tend to gravitate towards order, and the reason why people gravitate even towards dictators is because they have some sense. So I want to understand, how do you deal with the threat of violence? Because that's the other thing we have not talked about. We have talked about what we could do outside what we are doing, but we have not addressed the idea that we will still need to address the violent nature of power, that whoever feels powerful enough or violent enough will want to take power. That's the nature of human beings. If I know I can take power, there is no way I'll sit down and wait for 47 years or 47 rounds of elections.
Actually, they're not 47. They are almost 200 and something years.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying it's impractical. If I feel like I have to wait for 247, at some point in time, I'll be patient and I'll be like, I can fight today and tomorrow I'll be in it. So how do you address that challenge?
I don't have a solution for that. I'd be lying if
I'm basically trying to stretch your argument to address all angles so that we see if it's actually a practical solution that we can rely on, or it's an hypothesis a theory that we can still discuss about how we can apply it. You see, I know theories also don't come always when they are complete. They are blind spot to theories.
Yeah, I understand and I feel the argument. Yeah, we have security systems because immediately they are put down. There are these guys who will just come in and take what we have. It's true. If I can get something by by just going out there, blocking someone and taking it, and I can do it. I mean, that's the reason as to why we have be investing billions in security, because we are busy. We are busy wanting to take things from each other, and I don't know how to address that. I'd be lying to you. Really, I don't know how to address that. What I would say is that when things are pushed to the core, people actually go for something that has order. And like you said, dictators seem to have order and seem to have things in control, and that is why people sometimes prefer dictators. Like, if you talk to Ugandans who are here, they will tell you how they love Museveni, and the way the media portrays Museveni, you might be, hey, how can Ugandans be so thick? But when you speak to a real Ugandan, you find that these guys are so much, they're so much into him. But again, you have to look at things from a perspective of, have they been programmed to do that? Like the way we have been programmed in the country, that it is okay to actually teach kids, religious education and never touch civic education. So me, bro, from my perspective, I do think that when worst goes to worst, yes, people will always choose order. And when that time comes, my mouth will be out loud saying we need to change the presidency from a national election to a county contribution. That's me. That's how I've been viewing things. I don't know about when people, that one for that logic of, yes, people by nature want to be violent, or they are naturally violent to access things that are going to enhance them for better survival. That one I understand. But I don't know how to solve it. I don't know. Probably if we program people the same way we are being programmed now to think that democracy is working, if we probably people enough that probably having a sequence type of election is going to work, they are also going to be programmed. It's a matter of programming, I think, because right now as we speak, we have been programmed, right? Right now we are being programmed. So we are also going to work so hard in programming the people. So I don't have a solution, but that's all I can say.
Wait, Bashir, do you want to jump in? I'm sure you have something you wanted to ask. Bashir ako hapa kweli Titus?
I think Bashir has just done us that thing.
Bashir ame log in alafu akarudi kulala.
Naona ameweka.
Yeah?
Ken is Ken around?
Ken mazee ame drop off. I think he's coming back. I think network yake iko na shida. He's actually calling me mazee. Titus, hebu hold, continue with the convo, yes.
Karanja, maybe the next thing I would really want to hear from you is, there is a clip that I saw that you had commented about the way we question Ruto, we question Raila, but we don't question the parts of our constitution that allows them to do what they do, right? Which is basically the system. And I think I agree with you on one thing, that sometimes we like to think the problem is as simple as we see it, but usually the problem is what we usually see is just usually a very small tip of the real problem that we are addressing. So, for example, you suggested something around what do you call it? You were suggesting kwamba we need to question the constitution. I want to try and just push you so that we question those aspects and then see what could possibly come up. So what should we be questioning about, for example, the constitution that puts William Ruto there, or the constitutions that allows Raila Odinga to to actually picket and cause problems to the government under the protection of the same constitution. Do you mind taking us through the drill? Let's try and question, for example, the constitution that puts Ruto into power.
Now, that one for power, we have just talked about it. What I would talk about is the one for Rao being always at the top. He's always at the climax. This guy, bro, is not, his influence is not being deflated by any 30 years. 30 years. And you might even start thinking there's something else from international, bro. It doesn't make sense to anyone that someone can be politically relevant for 30 years, yet not in power. You know? So there is this idea we have, and that's again, it always goes back. Maybe I'm biased according to my own, perception. It always goes back to how we perceive the legislature, and how we have been programmed to think that the opposition should be questioning the government. But in real sense, that's not the case. I don't have anything that says that the opposition, especially the opposition leader, should be questioning the government. What I have is the legislature should be the one keeping check the executive. I don't have the article yet. I wish I did, but that is actually it. The legislature should be the one questioning the executive. The idea that the opposition should be questioning the executive is just taking care of people who have been in an election they shouldn't be, and then making them feel included in the government. That they essentially are not in the decision. If you're not on the decision-making table, you are not really included. You just stay on the window watching as we do our deals inside the home or inside the room. So that idea that the opposition questions the government, that is nonsense. What should happen is exactly the legislature should be questioning the executive. But how can that happen if the legislature is involved in the election of the executive? It's not possible. They are going to be biased, like what we have today. Do you think there's a difference between bunge la wananchi and bunge la assembly? Bro, there's no difference. The difference is that bunge la wananchi is Odinga dominated, and the assembly is UDA dominated. There's no difference. You just take some time and listen to them. This guy is a throw, I throw, rusha ni rushe. That's how they exchange words, like just the same way as the bunge la wananchi, almost 1 hour. It's the same thing. Because they have already been, they have been given the responsibility where one should be the proposer and the other should be the opposer, which is the wrong. So that idea about that idea about the opposition questioning the government is nonsense. And so, for me, what I would propose for this situation right here is probably make a coalition by law. And the only reason people reject coalition is because they feel that their national competition, was not worth it. That's why they reject coalitions. If we had coalitions, then it would be possible to question them all together because they are all in the decision-making table. You see, there will be no longer people saying, hii ni share yangu, hii ni share yule mwingine. There would be a different thing. We would be asking them questions uniformly. But why do people reject coalition? Because they feel that the energy they transmitted in getting power is being shared among with others who lost it. They actually say there's no sense in engaging in competition. If at all, I'm going to be rewarded just like the person I lost competition to. So it always goes back to the same question: competition for the presidential election. So coalition, if I have a chance, how can we solve the current mess? Coalition, make coalition a law. Because right now what we have is just the toxic democracy of the white man, coming in and, now after he's colonizing black people, now he engages to convince you majority now go ahead and colonize the minority, which is nonsense to me. It's a bit more primitive.
So maybe the coalition in this particular sense, what you are prescribing is involuntary coalition. So whoever is in the political field is interested in politics and that kind of thing will be forced into a coalition, because there is also the other sense that a coalition has to be of the willing and not coerced. Yeah, I don't know. How do we
I don't
reckon
have a
about?
problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. All we have to do is we stop begging and actually demand for things as a people. We are tired of being, we are the ones who are being told how things go. We can also demand for things. Like right now,
Okay.
they are coming to the people and telling us, mnajua wale watu sijui wanavunja barabara, they are destroying the country. I'm like, hey, boy, you have the police. You have everything. You have the power. Why are you coming to us? That guy cannot literally listen to the people during the campaigns. You did hear a clip where he was saying, "Go kijana." So right now, unakuja kutuambia we are in this society whereby our job is to listen and open our mouths just to be fed with information. We just to be fed with anything. Our job is to listen, bro. This is just some slow massaged dictatorship, but we cannot see it because we are being told that we are given this illusion of selecting leaders, But in this sense, in this situation right now, if I was to be asked, I would demand for coalition. Mwenye anataka ama mwenye hataki. If not that, then we have leaders who are willing to engage in coalition, because we are the ones who will lose most. You have to understand that when we went to the right core, when we went to the core of violence, 2007 or whatever, the worst that happened to those guys is that one became a president and the other guy became a deputy president and the other guy became a prime minister. When worst went to worst, okay, that the guy became a president, the other guy became a deputy president, and the other guy became a prime minister. So it's possible. It is possible, and we did see the prime minister. We did see the prime minister actually defending the government with almost everything he had. Right now, look at it from 2013. They became the leaders, and up to now, they are still the guys telling us what to do. And so we already know when the violence gets in, we already know that these guys will never lose anything. We are the ones who will lose. But why do you think we are so dumb that we are going to engage in anything that sheds blood? Because the country will burn. I don't know. I have no doubt the country will burn if someone doesn't submit. Right? So in the end, someone will have to submit. I don't know who, but someone will. So coalition to me would solve all this nonsense, by the way. Even the idea about county election, if we made coalition a law, that would be something else. Where we made an agreement that if a party manages to come up with 40% of the votes, then that party should have 40% of the cabinet seats. If the other one had 40 or whatever, if we made such a law, these things sound very crude because I'm here. But these are the things that would make sense. These are the things that would make people feel inclusive. If we as the people demanded for it, because we know when worst goes to worst, one person will have to submit. One person will have to submit. That being said, then we could make that submission a law, and we said coalition is compulsory. And then tuone Kenya itaendelea.
Now that you say that, I'm interested in pushing this further. Do you think the current stalemate will end up in a coalition?
I don't think so. I think Rao will submit without anything because he is not. He is listening to the same people he has been listening to, and it's sad. He has been my guy for like 2 decades. He has been my guy for 2 decades, and it is sad he doesn't have new bullets. I was surprised that someone can actually come out and say kura zangu zimeibiwa. I was surprised, bro. I was one of the guys willing to buy the blue suits banner. I was surprised someone can actually come and tell us that having the NIS, the G4, he had everything. This guy had everything, close to him. He had a guy risking everything he had built just for him. So who was in his pocket? I don't know. There is just something he's afraid of, and boom, it always limits him. So even now he's going to be outsmarted. It's sad. He is going to be outsmarted, and it's sad that he cannot speak up for himself, because that's what I think is happening right now. He's talking about so many things, but in the end, it's just simple. He wants something. He wants to be in in a powerful position. That's it. So it's sad to say this, but he'll be outsmarted. Ruto seems to understand that this guy doesn't have new cards. He doesn't. So Raila will be outsmarted again. If I don't know, it's sad to say this, but he'll be outsmarted. He's my guy, deep, but he'll be outsmarted. I thought he has the balls to actually deal with Chebukati in any way possible, however crude I sound. I thought he had the balls to do that, but he didn't. So even now, when he keeps on screaming that people are forced, you are Rudishwe, we need a new IABC. No, that's an old narrative. You are in the position of, demanding. By then you could be demanding. You would make those guys resign in the previous positions you were, but now it's time for you to actually now it's time for him to be reminded. No, we know all your cards and you have refused to accept new cards, so yes, you are exhausted. So it's sad to say that he'll be outsmarted, and yes, that I don't know how deep in the bloodshed we are likely to go in, but in the end Barao will be outsmarted.
Who do you think can make for a promising leader, you guys, going forward, you guys? But how old are you, Kodhek?
I'm 26.
Oh, you're 26. Do you think first of all, number one, do you think millennials are thinking differently, as in this younger Generation Z? Do you think Gen Z are thinking differently in regards to politics? And then question number two, who do you think in the current array of guys is someone who looks promising going forward?
I might be a bit biased according to my perception of democracy, because I think democracy is a primitive, disgusting tool that shouldn't guide a multi-ethnic society. So, do I think whether millennials are thinking differently? I tell you this, no. No. I hang out with millennials all the time. I hang out with millennials every time. I don't know about you, the millennials you guys hang out with, but these ones who actually think that the problem is Jui Rao, the problem is Ruto, they are just thinking like our fathers who used to think the problem is Matiba, the problem is Nyasaye, and there are grandfathers who used to think that the problem is Jaramogi. It's the same cycle. It's the same cycle. We don't want to admit it, but it's the same cycle. So just because you have just a few guys viewing things differently, bro, it will demand for an influential guy to have a very different perception, okay, up top there. Then he introduces something like we demand a coalition, or how we elect something. Bro, it would even be what do we call it? A parliamentary system. So we have got to, do you call it debugging the system? We have to, because we have never experienced something different in this country for like the last 30 years. And for the last 30 years is actually when we have lost most. Even at some point, people are actually preferring the dictator. These 30 years is when we have lost things most. So the youths, bro, I'm sorry to say, you cannot bring in people through the same system and you expect them to be different. It's just going to be a 10 to 15% who are thinking different. And we are not the first ones to think like this. If you read, there's a guy called Wangoho Nganga. He was a mad guy. I would call him the Andrew Kibe of the days. And he was saying, back in the days that politics is not necessary, we can have a system or a country guided by corporate manship, or I don't know how they call it, there's something about techno something they call it, and he was suggesting that back in the 60s. Yes, technocracy.
Technocrat.
It's technocrat, yeah. He was suggesting those things in the 60s. So then you start realizing, so there's no difference between how we are doing things now and back in the days. If that guy would even have the guts to write a book and even suggest something different, and he was met by clashes. That guy lost elections immediately after certain the people say that he is actually not sane. Wangoho Nganga, you should look him up. Now, it's the same thing with today, where you propose something to the what you're calling the millennials, and they look at you and they are like, "Unajua wewe huwezi enda mahali. Ili wewe, unajua ili siasa." They are arguing from the perspective of how things have been done before, and that's the only way that's the only way that things can progress. There is a name they have for it. I don't know. I might remember as we move on. It's legitimacy. It's called legitimacy. There is a name prior to that, but it's something about legitimacy, where you are submitting to the cultures that were existing, just because you don't want to think something different. Because when you think different, you are afraid that you won't be in charge, you won't be in control, and we won't be in order. So the youth thinking different? No, the youth are not thinking different. They are still complaining about the leaders. Nobody is talking about the system that puts the leaders into power, the system that makes sure that Rao is going to have vehicles and this security, but at the same time Rao is doing the same thing he was doing a long time ago, and people are dying, and they come to us, they hold the mic, and then they come back to us and they are like, unajua wale watu ndio wanatuangamiza, wale watu ndio wanaleta violence. Well, sisi hatuna mambo kama hiyo. It's the same thing, but the youth are there listening. The youth are there clapping. So the youth thinking different? No, bro, they are not. We need just one or two people out there who will bring a different idea. I don't care. It would be a parliamentary system, and I would support it, even though we are not mature enough to have political parties yet, because there is some underlining tug of war in between Kikuyus and Luos. So in whatever political party you ever form, there's always going to be the perception of where is the root? Is the root in Nyanza or is the root in Coast Central? I mean, it's always going to be like that. So even the parliamentary system is not going to be as competent. But if someone proposes it, I would go for it. Anything that is going to debug the system. So the users are not thinking different. No, they are not.
Kodhek,
Yes.
I've had this idea for a while that maybe democracy could work if these systems we have, whether it's these tenderpreneurship systems or just the voting system by itself, were completely transparent. That means a common mwananchi, maybe if we voted via an app or something, and the common mwananchi would log in and see where the process is currently, or even the tender bidding process, so that everything is transparent for everyone to see. What do you think? Will that make this system work for us better, or the system is just doomed to fail?
Yes, it would work for us better, bro. So many things right now we are doing could work for us better. Devolution also would work for us even the best. We have all these systems we are trying to masquerade as the solutions, but we don't want to eliminate the disgust, which is the idea that the majority should be ruling over the minority. Because what does now, you are going to perceive something as transparent, but the other guy will not. That's the problem here. We have perception, bro. We have a perceptual difference in everything. Okay? So you hear someone saying that we already know the cost of the destruction was 700 million. You're like, hey, bro, you gave us a quotation quite quick. That quotation was quite quick. If you did the same thing with the schools in where they are studying under trees, probably Kenyans on TikTok would actually build all the schools. Did you see that guy who was being gifted over 300,000 per life? Bro, that guy would build school. That guy per week would be building schools on the northern Kenya per week, right? So, bro, we have this perceptual difference in a way that we can't agree on anything. We can't agree whether something is transparent or not. There are people who believe that something will be transparent when they actually get into power. And that is the biggest bait. Like right now, someone is actually convinced that Ruto is the problem just because he overpromised. But when you think about it, how else do you get to power if you don't manipulate the people? These people are not civically literate. By design, these people are supposed to be slaves. These people we were not even empowered to, our constitution, if those who took history and government in school, the most boring lessons were the government lessons. We were looking at these things like they are not, it's like nikama ndimu. This, but in this sense, these are the things they should be teaching us in the front line. Probably giving us videos, probably giving us in animation so that we can understand the laws that guide us. But bro, we have been formatted to have this perceptual difference in everything. So what you consider as competent is actually disgusting to me. You in your perception, you know this is a guy, you know this is, but it's going to be perceptually different. So a transparent system where we can actually tell this tender it was vied by this guy, it was costing this much. I think we already have that now, where they are supposed by laws to post it on to gazette it. I don't know what they call it, but by law they're supposed to be it is supposed to be on the national, in the public, where it's supposed to be announced, and the bidding process, all that, it's supposed to be in the public as we speak. Now maybe they would be go ahead and go to the digital platforms, but again you have to think about it. Like right now we do have the Auditor General is on the online platforms, and you might be surprised when I tell you merely less than 300,000 Kenyans have ever streamed to the website of the Auditor General. Less than 300,000. It's a guess. I have made a guess. I would be surprised if it's much more than 300,000 Kenyans who have streamed on the website of the Auditor General. And the Auditor General is there saying that we cannot account for 30,000. Bob, we cannot account for 30 million. We cannot account for 1 point something billion. The Auditor General is busy doing the job, but do Kenyans go there? No. Kenyans are busy engaging in this competition. Who is and who is not? Nani anasema na nani asemi. It always goes back to the same thing. When you tell the people to engage in a national competition and they cannot, this is far much to their capability. They will always be looking up to the top. Now, who is in power? It doesn't matter whether we are eating each other. It doesn't matter whether yesterday I ate my neighbor's key. It doesn't matter. As far as I'm focusing on the top, who is on the top? I could actually say we are worshiping these people. We are at some point worshiping them. Bro, there's someone who would go hungry just to walk all the way from Kisumu. Kuna mtu jamaa niliona anasema ati if they dare touch Raila Odinga on Wednesday, hana fare, hana kitu yoyote, hana hata pesa ya gari ya moshi, he will walk from Kisumu. I don't know whether you understand what it means by walking from Kisumu, but it's walking quite far. So now, can you imagine having a conversation with that guy? Oh, what are you going to tell him? Someone who is actually saying he's going to walk from, he is starting from walking from Sunday, so by Wednesday he will be here. And he's saying, because Moses Kuria posted something stupid where he say, he knows the platform he is at, he knows the kind of influence he has, then he just recklessly says something just to ignite emotions, you know? So, and that guy saw that thing, and he is like, Naenda kwa Moses, bro, that guy is willing to walk. Now, do you think that guy, when he meets the police, he is willing to have any conversation? Do you think that guy is coming to engage in a debate? No. That guy is coming for blood.
Let me interject you there and then just ask you a question. Now, that is the exact same person you are telling to wait for a marble for, like, to choose and wait for 52 years. You see, this is a guy who is willing to walk from Kisumu to Nairobi. That's funny, by the way. But now I think you are telling this guy who is that irrational, that you have to wait, and he knows he can actually take over power today.
But
Do you think that guy will be reasonable? The point I'm trying to challenge you is human beings are not reasonable or logical at all. If anything, they are very emotional.
But that's where power comes in, you guys. You have the guns. Like, see, the guns will enforce the 47-year thing, you guys.
No, and that is exactly where the challenge is. You don't have the monopoly of those guns alone. Somebody else will find those guns and then fight you for it.
Ken Better will interject.
The concern you're bringing up is credible, but there are cultures that have actually used that tactic of using chance to make seemingly important decisions that you can't tell apart. Like the Chinese have this book called the I Ching. It's basically it's called a book of changes. So whenever the Chinese, someone who runs a business, for example, or someone who is in a leadership role, gets to a decision crossroads. They bring up this book, and it has different rituals, you could say, to determine which way to take, which decision to make when you are caught in like a crossroads. And from someone from our culture, it could be seen as a gamble, or like just a play on chance, like playing the dice. But it has actually helped that culture move forward and not be uh, basically trafficked or uh, held stationary by problems that seemingly are hard to decide.
Another example,
Mm.
another example is devolution was said to be it's not never going to work. There's some people who are actually against devolution. I think the current president was against devolution, right? I think he was against it. And even today, when you listen to these economists, they say that devolution is the worst thing that happens in the country. But then from my perspective, I'm like, well, if devolution was the worst thing that happened in the country and it has only happened for 10 years, and I have a tarmac road just 1 kilometer from where I stay in the shags, and we had a different system that was there for almost 50 years, and that tarmac road was not there, that school was not there, those tiny projects that I can actually go to an MCA and ask questions were not there. If you think what we had in the past was working and something else was brought, no, you have something wrong with your head. So once you get a system ongoing, because we already know that we are not very logical, and that's sad, because in a state, maybe we should be having a balance of 50-50, but it seems like it's not. The people who are willing to question their reality are not just so many. Okay, and it goes back even to basic things like beliefs and everything, and so I understand your point of view, whereby you are like, when it comes to agreeing on who begins and who ends in this sequence, how will we agree on that? But then I'm looking at things from, if this works, it takes away all the energy, because now the focus is going to be how do we organize our labor and resources? Because right now, in every society, like I told you, now I have got some interest in sociology. In every society, all they have to do is answer 3 basic questions. Just 3. How do you organize your labor? How do you organize your power, labor, and resources? Just that. Once you answer those 3 questions, that's how we call you valuable. So if we could succeed in, first of all, eliminating the idea that one person is going to be in control of the other person for like forever, for an infinity, okay? Once we eliminate that idea, and we have something that promises to be actually equal, it's going to be fair to some, or maybe it's going to be fair, and it's going to be fair. Once we focus that energy into the other 2 questions, whereby how do you organize your labor and resources, now it's time. We are going to see ourselves thinking of things like adding value to our tea, adding value to our coffee. Because if you haven't noticed, one of the things that is destroying our ability to organize ourselves is still the same thing: politics. But if we took care of that shit, if we took care of whatever pulls us or makes us have this, have this emotion that cannot be calmed down, if we took care of that, which is power, then we are likely now to focus our energy on adding value and adding and organizing our labor. And you as a human being, you as a human being, you are limited by how much you can do in a day. You as a human being, there is a specific energy that your body produces by the end of the day. And if much of your energy does not go to value addition, that is how you see yourself being, you lack value. Okay, so we are focusing, and our energy goes back so much into organization that we don't have value, because we are always in this competitive mode of who is in power, who is in control. Okay, so that's it. That's my point of view. If we could possibly start this, and just maybe if we could shake the system a bit, we would view this from a different perspective. We would probably see how the guy walking from Kisumu would react, you know. But again, the problem is this guy doesn't care. Whatever Rao says, he will do. That's how illogical we are in the state. And not just him. Oh, you would be surprised. You would be surprised by what people can do in Central. You would be surprised by what people can do in Rift Valley. You know, we are talking of maybe 80% of the people in the state can actually be controlled like remotes. And that's what we want to eliminate. The ability of 2 to 5 people having the influence over so many people just because they manage to manipulate them, just because they manage to outwit them. And that's it. So it's crude, and I don't know how it would work. It would be, we would start it off, but if we did, bro, we would view things so different. Like right now, I still don't understand why we are farming coffee and farmers have been complaining for the last 30 years.
You know, I think what you're bringing to light is a much deeper problem than we are appreciating right now. You mentioned this fractured sense of fractured perception of reality. Every society has its own idea of what is true, and I think if we follow that line of logic, we can see that this problem also it avails itself even in the family unit. You can be, let's say 40 years ago, 30 years ago, a family unit all had the same idea of what reality is. Ilikuwa wanajua kama Mungu ni Yahweh, wote wanajua Mungu ni Yahweh. They know if there are gender roles, they all adhere to the same gender roles. Right now, you can have a daughter and a father and a mother all with different ideas of what this reality is. And we are seeing that translate now even into our society, into so this seems like we are standing in the rubble of this democracy that was brought here, and we are seeing it didn't work, and we are in a opportune moment in time where we have the choice of either continuing with this failed system or building ours from scratch.
Well, what I would say, I just don't. You just don't have enough people at the top who are willing to shake the system. All of them are busy in the competition mode. So right now, almost everyone, bro, almost everyone, even the judiciary, almost everyone is busy in the competition in between these two sides. Almost everyone. I even wish we had a third side, but then the third side, which was Jacoya, now it joined one of the guys. Okay, so you can see how the democracy makes it sure I'm going to split this country into two. I'm always going to have the one dominant side and the less dominant side, and then I'm going to guarantee the less dominant side the ability to speak, the ability to rumble, and then the other guys are going to be defending, and then that society is always going to be back and forth until the white man. We are going. I heard this guy telling me there will come a time Africans will beg for white people back, and I'm looking at things like you are not lying. You are not lying, bro. During COVID, we literally begged for the vaccines. I mean, we are having donations from France. You know, you can't reject a vaccine donation when when it is proof that your people have started dying in the hospitals. You know, we had donation from Jack Ma that we literally looted everything. You can see how in the coming future we are going to beg these guys to be back to rule us again, because we have refused to answer the very basic questions, which is how do you organize your labor, power, and resources. So a time coming, it's not now. It's not now, because I don't see any leader up there willing to talk about maybe the presidential parliamentary system or anything. They are all talking about that leadership should change. Leadership has changed already. It has changed already, but the results are the same, So, and we will never perceive a leader as competent if at all we have democracy at place. There is no competence in democracy. It's just influence and populism.
Why do you think guys don't focus on the local government system? Because I feel like that has more impact. Like in my shags, those guys are really doing okay. I'm not saying they're perfect, but the roads are pretty good. You go to the county, the pavements are paved. So, like, a county leader has more impact on your day-to-day life than the president, you guys. What do you think?
Kisiangani.
Yeah.
Let me give you the example of this small county I'm in here right now. The governor we have was practically begged by the people here to enter office. Literally begged. He was the MP of Mwatate before, but I literally saw this populace beg him. But he entered office and immediately was swallowed by the current cartels that were already existent in there. So this restructuring Kodhek is talking about, man, it's needed at the structural level. Yani, we need to restructure this entire system, because even a good person, once they get into the current system, their morals, everything is washed away.
Can I can I suggest something, or I want to ask a question, and everybody can feel in to chime in on this? I actually feel like the challenge we have, or listening to Kodhek, what he's really talking about is, you see, there is this idea that we think our leaders are as sovereign as we think they are. They are not. So even when you say the few leaders we have, and I'm like, those people are incapable of even making the decisions that you want. So here is my challenge. I actually feel like this is a problem to do with capitalism more than anything else. What do you guys think?
Capitalism,
I
yes.
I agree.
Yes, I also agree. Capitalism has a way in affecting everything we are doing. But guess why we are always rushing for everything else out there? Guess why two men fighting would choose their neighbor to milk their cow? Why? Why do you think that would be? Well, guess why we are always rushing, for the third party solution? It's because we are into two. We are split into two. We can't agree on anything. So the other guy said that asking why are we not looking at the local government? And I'm like, bro, it is true that the local government, some of them are actually performing. Me personally, yes. When I look at my MP, who is Ishongwa, I don't like his politics, but I still voted for him because I know what he is capable of doing and what he does. So when you look at what he's doing at the ground level, yes, Kidole. When you look at my MCA personally, that guy, even if he ran for the presidency, I would still elect him. Then it would be me and his wife elected him. Okay, because I can see exactly what competence is. This guy would be here. Maybe a transformer is not working. This guy will be here saa nne usiku. We are not used to that. You know when the transformer has blocked something and he will drive all the way there and come with some guys just to check a transformer saa tano ya usiku. Just that's, to me, we have competence with us. We have leaders amongst us. We have guys who you can tell, bro, this guy can do it. But then, what options do they have at the top? Do they have an ability to think for themselves? No, they don't. They have to choose one of the two sides. And once they choose one of the two sides, they have got to speak from the perspective of those sides. Who would think that there's this guy of Mombasa, this guy from Mombasa, bro, who would think Ticho Pevu would speak like a normal politician? Who would think?
In fact, that is why I suspect, that's why
Yes.
I suspect. You see, where I really root this problem is, I'll give you a small hypothetical, and then you will tell me what you think about this. Because, for example, I know one of the reasons why everything I've had you speak about, when I try to narrow it down and push it just back, for example, why can't our leaders, for example, the current president and whoever is in, why can they decide to take us away from this concept? And then you realize also they don't control the world. But what happens in Kenya is a result of the world order. Basically, it's capitalism and the world order. And now you have to make a decision. Do you have the energy, if you are going to fight this system, the world system order, or basically the capitalist order, because that's what we ascribe to? Do you have the wherewithal to fight this system, or do you try as much as possible and benefit from this system? Because in as much as I know we Kenyans think we are getting the cheap end of this thing, But in comparative terms, and that is very important, by the way, the use of that word comparative terms. In comparative terms, we actually some of the blue-eyed boys who have benefited from this kind of uh, system that has dominated the world for the last couple of centuries. What do you think in those terms? Because I don't think our president has the power to decide what system we change into. What he has the power
Now,
over, he can actually rally the whole country to even vote for a new system. But then he will face the wrath of the other world order that will not agree with what he decides to do.
yes, I know. Usiende mbali sana. Just come to the fact that school uniforms, whereby students were being forced, and even now they are being forced to buy uniform in the schools. You know, someone has managed, a corporate somewhere has managed, to maneuver in the system and convince the whole education system that students should be buying uniforms from the schools and at this cost. And most of the time you compare that to what the Muindi guy is selling at River Road, and you're like, bro, you are 10,000 expensive, you are 10,000 extra. So that influence is there. But imagine if it was working for us. Because we are not saying that these systems that are in place are not working for some. We as evil as this might sound, we want that to work for us. So how do they make sure that every state they go in, they are so welcomed, they know that those people are busy competing, those people are busy fighting, so once we go in, we are going to be seen as saviors? It's through democracy. Before capitalism, my friend, democracy is what they use to institutionalize the people first, because they know we are going to have two sides. So one, we won't have so many people questioning us, and two, the people we are going to have in the table are all going to be people who cannot agree on anything. So we can give the deal to X and we give a different deal to Y, and then they are going to take care of the whole population. Okay, so I want the conversation that is going to go on. I want to hear people questioning democracy, and I will be there supporting. I will be, bro. I don't care. I would be there shouting, doing backflips in front of those people, saying that we need to redefine democracy. I'm not against the idea of people speaking up or having the freedom to express themselves. I'm just against the idea of majority ruling over the minority, because that's what they use. The capital, they know once they come in, they already know that once they come in, they are going to meet two fractured. The state is going to be fractured into two. And maybe my thesis might be biased, but look at it. The capitalism in China is working for China. Whatever they have there. And when you look at China's democracy, it's China's democracy. It's just for them. When you look at people like Russia, their capitalism is working for them. We can't say that those guys, when the worst gets to worst, that they cannot, warm their homes. They are able to do that. Bro, we cannot even survive a cholera outbreak. We need donations. Here, we need donations, bro. We cannot survive something as simple as what happened. Did we require someone to come and help? We can't even, a guy being flooded by a lorry, being flooded up. We had this white guy coming in with a helicopter, and I was so ashamed that our Kenyan Air Force was not able to do the same thing. So you can easily see this capitalism. We would like that to happen if it was working for us. If we were the guys in charge. For example, right now, East Africa, we are the most. For now, we are the ones who seem to be sane, and it's a shame. I don't know. I don't think Africa has ever hope, and I don't know if Kenya is the most sane country in the East. So imagine us taking advantage of the incapability of other East African countries to organize themselves, taking advantage of that population and selling them products, and being the capitalist of the East. Can you imagine if that was working for us? And it all goes back to, bro, how do you organize your power? Is your power divisive, or is it a unitary thing? So capitalism sounds evil, and it is. Yeah, it is. when it's not working for you. If it's working for you, bro, that's the best thing that has ever happened. Can you imagine we were the corporates of the East? Because that's the point of life, right? That's the point of life, surviving and being able to take advantage of what is happening, the resource, adding value to the resources around you. So if it was working for us, this perception of capitalism is evil, we wouldn't be having that. It would be something different, you know. So, bro, capitalism sounds evil, and it is, but it's that just when it's not working for you. When it's working for you, it's the best thing that has ever happened. You should see a guy who has got 3 to 4 chains of chips, and he sounds like the richest man that ever existed, you know. So there was this company, I don't know, there was this theory that was being taken about 2 biggest companies out there. It's one of the black something and something else. And when I see it, the way I see it, those guys will continue flourishing forever and ever. These guys have the power to found a war. These guys have the power to disrupt countries. That's the amount of power they have. But these guys are not able to penetrate in countries that have redefined their democracy. And so it goes back to the same thing. We have to redefine our democracy.
All right, guys, I want to jump in here. If you're here and you want to jump on and ask a question, ama utoe maoni, I think now is a good time because we're about to land this ship. Watu waende wafanye vitu zao. So if you had a burning question or a burning contribution, now is the time to request the mic. Niliona Nubian alikuwa amerequest hapo awali. Nubian, bado uko area? Do you still want to ask that question, you guys? Meanwhile, as we are waiting for these guys to request for the mic, what do you think of these celebrities joining politics, Maze? Kodhek.
The system is working as it should. It's an influence and a populist system. So it's working as it should. And this should be a red flag, but you can see people celebrating it in the name of humbleness, in the name of inclusivity, in the name of democracy, as if it's a very good thing. But when you think about it, if that's a solution, why can't everyone just go for the comedians? Why can't just everybody just go for... Why can't just everybody... if it's something worth to celebrate, why can't just everybody just... we are entertaining that because it's about influence, and that person is supporting the agenda from our perspective. You know, we have got 2 strong dominant perspectives. So when that person just has to choose one. And for the influencer like Jalango has come in and he has questioned reality. Now, is he shaking the system? No, he's just choosing one devil, but he is questioning reality, and that one I admire.
You guys, Bahati ran for office, Mazi. Bahati, Joe. Can you imagine? That guy have any leadership skills?
And I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to see him gaining votes, thousands of votes. I wouldn't be surprised because that's it. The system assumes influence is merit or competence. That's it.
You know what, May I think? I think in the next couple of years, the internet is going to produce, a political leader. And in terms of his ability to lead, that one, I don't know. But I feel like the internet breaks the barriers. You can reach the people directly. You don't need so much money. You just need your bundles and maybe a very good sera ya kuuza. But I feel like in the next say 10 years, people will be able to campaign and actually run for office through the internet, especially if the internet penetrates the villages. Because nowadays there's a time Jews in Ilikuwa Luandeti and someone recognized me. I'm like, "Ai, wewe una Luandeti." So I feel like that's the next frontier because look at me and you here. We met through the Wild Wide Web, and you've been able to use that to spread your way of thinking. So maybe that's the game changer, because now you don't need to bribe guys. You just need to sell your seras on your TikTok page, and then you get all the votes and you get in.
Yeah. I love where we are going. I love where we are getting, but I will know that there is some shakedown happening once we question democracy. So yes, in the future, actually maybe in the nearby future, if you look at the campaigns of 2022, you're going to realize that there was this some sort of urgency to post every time you go to a campaign, and you could see the reaction of the people. So yes, what you are saying is true. Probably 10, probably 10. We will have a leader produced by TikTok. Probably in 10. Probably in 10.
Alright, Nubian nimeona amefika hapa juu at last. So Nubian, you had something you wanted to say. Go ahead. Nubian, brother man, are you there?
Hey, nimengoja.
Mazee,
Nimekuwa nikingoja wakati huu.
ndio wewe sasa hapa bana. Tuambie Jo.
So actually he had a lot of questions kwa jamaa, but so far vitu yenye anasema I kinda agree with him kwa sababu what he's saying, like we define our our rules ama nini to define our constitution and the rules which govern us. To me I think like hata issue si leader, because the leader is just there like kutuonyesha like where to go and stuff like that. The system ndio mi na feel ni something important, because hiyo system ndio inatupatia ile loophole ya pia kuiba. I kind of feel like hivi tu na hizi ma rules, democracy, other stuff, and nina feel wali introduce kwetu and we people adapted it na tu kujua kutumia vizuri. Okay, as much as tunaunda constitution tunaendelea ku redefine, but we always have these loopholes zenye ziko na nini and stuff like that. Unaona hiyo inapatia hata watu wengine kukuja kutumanipulate, but the thing is this shit ina run deep sana hata kuliko venye si tunaelewa. We can decide tufanye hivi yote, but how sure are we all that's going on in these countries of ours hapa hivi is just our own doing, like ni doing yetu, see another third party person playing, kwa sababu this what I always see, na hii ni kitu mimi mwenyewe tu nilikuwa nimenotice, like before our leaders, like the first leaders were hizi manchi zote, almost every country. Angalia Jomo Kenyatta, the same issue na nani Mandela, the same fucking issue I guess na Nyerere, the same fucking issue na ule jamaa wa Ghana. These guys were taken to prison for some time, for years bro, alafu wakarudi wakatupwa. Kulikuwa na wase wengine walikuwa nje na hao wase ni better, wako na akili na nini, but hao wase wenye walikuwa na rushwa kwa prison alafu wanakuja, alafu sasa hao ndio wanapatiwa leadership. Tuko sure je hao wase walikuwa na trainiwa? Tuko sure je labda hii system yenyewe tunaendelea ku fight na nini, na kumbe kuna player mwingine? Mimi na feel kwa sababu tuko hapa na mainchi ndogo sana, na mostly hizi nchi hazijiwezi, si hata kujiweza kimado peke yake, hata kiakili na nini, na venye constitution iko. What I feel like penye kitu yote itaweza fika, we unite as Africans, tuanzishe kama ni moja, at least hapo tutakuwa nchi mingi and it will be way harder to manipulate. And now that we know like the way the systems are done, mean it as a suggest like we go back to the way we used to do like kitambo before these guys come in, but in a systematic way. That's a solution yenye mimi naona, kwa sababu every time tutaongea hapa hivi bado manipulation iko, but tukiunite like na tuleta hizi idea moja plus moja, na we can negotiate as one team, si ati huku nje na nje. I think hivyo ndio tutaweza conquer. I don't know.
Yeah, you have a good idea, but what's the concept of that organization? I want to hear the concept. If the concept is democracy, you can be guaranteed of two sides that are willing to shed blood. If the concept is democracy, yes. If I even like I have this question. I always ask everyone who is so obsessed with African unity. I always ask the same concept: are you going to use democracy as a concept of organization? If they say yes, I'm like, okay, you are going to be slaughtering people like cows, you know. because we already have a country
Yo,
here,
Kodhek,
and our
Kodhek,
yes.
before you continue, let me ask you: do you think democracy is always there, just like a word, and or people practice?
Democracy actually is the idea that majority rules over the minority. Haifichangwi. The only thing they did is that they encapsulated the idea of democracy is the reason as to why you're able to express yourself. But
Definitely.
in real sense, democracy is the idea that majority rules over the minority. Nobody wants to say that. Nobody wants to admit that because it would sound like, oh, this is the new type of colonialism. It is. That's what it's supposed to be. That's why the white man must insist on democracy on your country, but they use a different concept of democracy in the UN. The Britain, they use a parliamentary system. Okay, but they have got this obsession with democracy in Africa because they know we can guarantee that the majority will be colonizing the minority and the minority will be retaliating. So our job is simply to be making posts and reminding the leaders that we can see people are being oppressed. Please take care. Can you imagine our leaders actually reacting to CNN saying that the police are beating up the. Can you imagine our leaders doing that? Our leaders are supposed to be ignored, just and view that as just another news outlet that's out there masquerading as a news outlet. But then our leaders, you can see them busy, tensing. They're even going on Twitter, responding, saying that CNN is. You can see, bro, we are united in a web, something so fragile. Okay, we are all walking on a thin pile of ice. That's democracy. That's it. So, what you said, that is it possible for us to go back into our roots and modernize the system we had? I support that, and that is why I say something primitive like having 47 and using marbles to select two, or giving sequence to the 47 counties and using marbles, something objective, because that is something that used to be done like by our ancestors. When people would not agree on a claim made by two men, they would use bones to decide. Okay, they used to say spiritual, but for me, from my perspective, is they were doing that for objectivity, just to make sure that they are not going to view us that guy doing it, the guy is throwing the bones, as biased. Okay, so your idea of modernizing what we had in the past, I like it, because that's it. What we're having now has not worked for 60 years. So why would we proceed with a system of democracy that has failed to work for 60 years? So what you have said there about modernizing what we had in the past, I'm for it. I am for it. Okay, we and every time we talk about modernizing our cultures, people view it like we are going to be very tribal. Once you eliminate the ability of one person being in control and the other person being the one who should submit, you would be surprised by the number of intermarriages we would have. You would be surprised by how much people are actually interested in other people's cultures, right? But because of they have to have a political side, they have to engage in a competition of power, then this thing we have always to have some tension. Because if I am engaging with that guy, that means I am depopulating my side. And that is why, bro, I might be biased, but competition for power of the presidency nationwide takes up everything. It even limits intermarriages. It limits almost everything you can think of. So yes, I support your idea of modernizing what we had in the past.
All right, people. I think that's a good time. Mama Ken unaonaje bana?
Now, yeah, I think we need a couple more episodes with Bwana Kodhek hapa. He has given us some enlightening insights on our state as a nation.
Yeah,
And he's prompted a conversation that I've wanted to happen on a national stage for a long time now. And I think this is just the first of many episodes with this young man.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll have more focused, because today's was pretty general. So I think if we can have a more focused convo, it can really work out, Maze. Titus, do you have any last comments? By the way, thanks for coming through, Titus, with your skill, you guys, Bazi.
Mimi sina mengi ya kusema.
But I'm very grateful. I really enjoyed conversing with Kodhek. At least there are things I don't agree with him, but he gets me to look at something from a totally different point of view. So I'm really looking forward to having more conversations with him in the future. But other than that, I really enjoyed our conversation this morning, and I think most of the people who are on the space have gone home with something different today, at least.
Yeah, cheers to you, Titus, too. Bwana Kodhek, Maze, do you have any last statements? Thank you so much for making the time, you guys. And thank you, Ken, for making this happen.
Kisiangani.
Personally, I'm thankful.
Oh,
I'm thankful. I don't know. It is quite interesting that one more person actually agrees to we should rethink our democracy. We should rethink our concept of governance, not necessarily the leaders, because the leaders are what we choose. It is the leaders literally are the reflection of who we are. So if they are disorganized, you find that we are almost the same thing. Okay, so I am thankful that I have just one more person. I just like just to hear that there's one more person that wants to question democracy, because democracy is the division tool of the white man. Okay, so I really appreciate that there's one more person who have the ears for that, who have got the, who can actually conceptualize this, and he's like, by the way, this could be the problem. Yeah, because if you look at so many things, that is always the problem. So thank you for the platform, and yeah, of course we will be doing this much more.
Yeah, that'll be dope. Nubian, unasemaje?
mi nabambika na hii conversation sana. Is something yenye nimekuaga tu naye kwa akili. Is something like nilikuwa nikifikiria, but now that tunaongelea hapa hivi is something good. Mi ninapenda sana, unacheki your design. Kisiangani, like my mom would put it. Ninabambika manze. What's next on your channel? Who is the next guest? Tupatie hint manze.
You guys, you need to stay tuned. Stay tuned, you guys, to this to this channel. Wait, Kodhek, I'm going to chat you up offline about coming to our podcast. So I guess maybe I'll just send you a DM and see if I can get you on the podcast. But it's been real, Maze. Ken Beda, you guys, hii wiki inakaa labda itakuwa wiki ya siku mbili bana.
Kwa nini?
Si kuna maandamano on Wednesday, you guys. Uko Voi amna muandamani on Wednesday?
Kwani maandamano inaingia Twitter ba?
You guys
unasema for working purposes.
No, I'm saying us will be here doing our thing, but I'm just saying, see these guys were saying there'll be maandamano on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday.
As we are far removed from the politics happening in the capital, man.
What the heck is that? Wednesday? You guys. You guys, the one day maandamano inani affecti. Sasa 3 days. Yeah. You guys, that's rough, you guys. That's rough. I hope it didn't turn out to be a nasty thing. So we're hoping for the best. So we are here every day from 7 o'clock. They're hosting the Breakfast Banter show. So thank you so much. We have some dope guests lined up. Apart from huyu mwenye ametu educate leo. You guys, Ken, I'll tell you on the side, but we have some dope guests wenye wanafaa ku come through kwa hii space. So I think this space is going to be one of those big ones. If you want to check out this space, it's going to be on YouTube on the members panel. So please head up the Kisiangani podcast on YouTube and you'll be able to check out all the spaces we've been doing. But meanwhile, Ken Beda, tomorrow is the day, ama?
Sawa bana. Thanks everyone who joined us. We really appreciate. Let's keep this going.
We appreciate it. Kodhek, asante sana. I'm hoping to connect with you hapo kwa mtandao hapo kando. But have a very good day, guys. See you later.
Peace.